Welcome to One World Countless Story podcast with me, Selena Novello. Hey guys, welcome back to Selena Novello's podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you guys, and I've got another podcast episode to share with you guys. In this episode, I interviewed Noreen Music, and Noreen Music is so brilliant. I met Noreen in an entrepreneur group, and ever since we've met, she has inspired me so much. She has really made me see the true power and beauty that I have inside myself. During her story, she tells us about her family life and her career. She also talks about how she got fired from her corporate job after many years and how that affected her. She talks about how she had to pivot and how she got through that very difficult time. When you do something for your whole life or for most of your life, that's the way it is, and it's really difficult to learn and to grow. But she really did make a difference and change her mindset, and she started her very own business, which she is going to talk more about in this episode. I hope you all enjoy it, and we will see you very soon. Let's get into it.
My name is Noreen Music, and I am born and raised in Calgary, Alberta. I still live in Calgary. I've actually never lived in any other city. I have traveled all over the world, and I still come back to Calgary and love this city. My mom still lives in the house that I grew up in Lakeview in the Southwest. And so my mom and dad, my dad has since passed away. It's been about 7 years or so, but I grew up, in a very loving home. My parents came from Holland. They were married. They were born and raised there, married there, came over here, started a new life in the 50s. And I have 4 older sisters. One of them is an identical twin, so I am an identical twin. And yeah, that's kind of, I was born and raised here and had a wonderful upbringing, good home life. I'm still really close with my sisters, my family, my mom, all my cousins. So yeah, I have really strong roots here.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So I would love for you to go in a little bit more what it was like to have 4 sisters. That must have been crazy.
It was crazy. The house that we grew up in was, I thought when I was a kid that it was big, but it wasn't. Like it was a very humble, bungalow. It had a big backyard though. We had a garden. The house was definitely busy. There was always something going on, and there were occasionally, some cat fights over clothes or makeup or things like that. But there's a spread of 10 years between my oldest sister and Laura and I, my twin. And so she is amazing. She was just that typical big sister, and she was just so loving, and so she took care of us from the minute, my mom and dad brought us home as babies, and so there was just a lot of love in our house, a lot of she would always give us advice, and it was great having older sisters. And yes, occasionally there were some issues, but yeah, it was just a busy house, a lot of, female hormones going on when we were all in our teenage years. Oh my gosh, bless my mom's heart. She had to go through 5 girls being, young adult or teenagers and preteens and so on. Yeah, so it was a little crazy, but love my sisters.
I can imagine. So what was it like being a twin? What was that relationship like for you?
So my relationship with my twin is really special. I mean, I love my husband, I love my kids, but there is but there is something just more unique about being a twin. It's like how you see the world. You see the world out of your eyes from your experiences, and what's going on inside of your mind, your brain, around how you see the world, process the world, and nobody else knows. But with her, I know that she knows how I see the world. It's like she's looking out of the same eyes that I have. And it's that kind of knowing and that kind of bond. Like when you are genetically identical, there is just a bond and a knowing and a relationship that no other human can really understand unless you are an identical twin. So I just feel so blessed that she is my sister, my friend, my she's a silent business partner. We're just very close, and we've always been really close. We've raised our kids together, with our husbands, of course, but so our kids have two moms, and yeah, it's just a very special relationship.
Hmm. And it sounds like it was so amazing. Was there any challenges with that?
Yeah, the challenges growing up and even the challenges today are with comparison. That's my biggest challenge being a twin. It's like imagine living with a mirror of yourself, a living, breathing replica of yourself. And there are times when I might be, 20 pounds lighter than she is. She might be 20 pounds lighter than me, or and so even though I would give my life for her and I love her more than anything, it's still sometimes hard when I compare myself to her and feel like I don't measure up, or other people try to compare us and say, oh, who's the good twin? Who's the not so good twin? Who's the prettier one? Who's so it's the whole comparison thing about being, identical twins has been the greatest challenge, but also the greatest amount of lessons and learning, which of course is life, right? We learn from our greatest challenges. So that would be definitely the greatest challenge of being a twin.
So I assume that you have, maybe you're still dealing with comparison now, but I am assuming that it's gotten a little bit better as you guys got a little bit older. So what were some of those strategies that you used to remind yourself, like, bring yourself back, like, oh, I'm Noreen, I am good enough? What did you do?
Yeah, so I think that just having that awareness, first of all, that was kind of going on in my subconscious mind, this comparison, and just recognizing that even though we are an identical twins, I am unique. I am, born for a unique purpose. Her purpose is different than mine. And almost coming to the point where it's like you buy the same car as somebody else. Like she's just driving around in the same car as me, and we're gonna go different places, and we're gonna get door dings and nicks and scratches and whatever in different places, and so that we are different. I'm not identical to her, and I really don't need to compare myself to her. I mean, she is my biggest supporter, my biggest fan, and I am to her. And so it's just sort of quieting that piece of my subconscious mind, like, you know what? Be quiet. Go away. Like, I
Yeah,
don't need to listen to you.
yeah,
Uh, it's bringing awareness to that piece and just saying, you're not true. Like,
yeah.
it's not true. We are not mirrors of each other. We are not, yes, we were born as identical twins, and that is a gift to be born that way, but it doesn't mean that I always have to measure myself up against her as a person and her successes and her, the things that she's doing in her life and her gifts and her passions. We're
Hmm.
different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great answer. Thank you for sharing that with everyone. I would like to talk a little bit about your schooling career. What was that like? Was school easy, difficult for you?
School was difficult for me in the sense that I was far more interested in socializing and having fun than I was at school. And because I have a different mind, like I don't have a mathematical mind, I don't have a science sort of based mind. I always found those subjects really hard. And so I would just, distract myself with friends and other things. And so I struggled in school. I didn't do very well in the subjects that I didn't like, and I made it through, thankfully. But I also feel like my socializing and what I learned from friendships and other people also taught me a lot. I got a lot of schooling in that way,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like my dad. I remember my dad telling Laura when she went off to university. He said, "Don't get A's, get B's, because if you get B's, that means that you're living a little bit and you're getting some street smarts and some experience." And so that's kind of my experience at school is, I didn't always get B's. Sometimes I got C's. But yeah, I did learn a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's so awesome. And so I guess for someone in a similar position where they really don't love what they're learning, what advice would you give them now, like from where you've gone now? Sorry, I didn't really finish that question. Like through everything you've been through now, how could you give advice?
Well, what I would say to myself now, back then, is, it's a short period of time. Just buckle down and do it. Like instead of just giving up so quickly or thinking, this isn't for me, just buckling down a little bit more and, focusing a little bit more on it. Not that it has done me a huge disservice to not, to have gotten C's in some areas or whatever. I feel like, the education that I've received after school, that I've pursued on my own, I've done extremely well because I was passionate about it. I wanted to. It interests me. So it's not like I was stupid, but I kind of thought that I was. I kind of thought that I couldn't learn. So just knowing that you can learn, just try a little harder, just try a little harder.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that. So what happened after you graduated from high school?
So I graduated from high school and I ended up, I was going to the Wild Rose College of Natural Healing. I was actually taking courses on like iridology and reflexology. I was working there as well. I was working as the college coordinator, and that was my path. I'd always loved natural healing and herbs and nutrition and vitamins and all the just everything about holistic natural healing. And after a few years, I needed a break. I needed a break from education and all those things. And so I decided to leave the college in my role, and I got this other job as as an admin person for this property management company. And I had no idea what property management was all about. I just assumed, I guess at the time, that you walk into a mall or you walk into an office tower and the doors just magically open and things just magically stay clean and safe and everything. I had no idea that that industry even existed. And so I got this job and I thought, well, okay, I'll try this out. It's a bit of a break from all the education and everything. And I remember my very first day. Oh my goodness, I was scared. Like, I was so scared. And I walk in, and my boss was this really tough woman, smoker, tough property manager. And she says to me, "Here's your desk. Here's your inbox. I haven't had someone in this position for about 2 months." And so the inbox was like, I don't know, a foot high or more. She
Wow.
said, "Figure it out." And I thought in that moment, this was like 8:15 in the morning, the first day of my job here. I thought, oh my goodness, what did I do? What did I get myself into? Like panic. And so she stormed off, and I sat down and I thought, well, I committed to this. This is my job now, so I need to figure it out. And I realized in that moment that I could learn anything. If I sat down, looked at one piece of paper at a time, and read through it and asked questions and did a little research, I could figure it out. And that really built in me this sense of like hard work and grit and determination that, you know what, I may not be the most educated. I mean, I was really young. I hadn't finished any official formal schooling at that time. I had, finished some of my natural healing courses, but not my all of them for sure. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. And I did. And I stayed in that industry for the next 30 years and rose up the ranks and, ended my career managing 2 million square feet, two fitness centers, two conference centers, a huge food court, a team of 50 people, attained, a respectable level of success doing that. So,
Wow, that is so amazing. I just love the story and how you decided to take a break from your education and take on the next challenge. And I loved how you found that strength and confidence in yourself that you could do anything that was thrown at to you, which I think is so inspiring because you took a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it. What the heck am I going to do?
I
And
know.
you just adapted. You learned how to do all the things that you needed to is so
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. And I use the people around me. Like, I would ask the accountant, so what do you do? And why do you do it that way? And how does that work? And I would talk to all the operators and ask them about their role. And I mean, I didn't even know how to turn on a computer. I didn't know where the power button was. And let me tell you, computers, even then, I'm totally dating myself, were a bit of a rarity. There was like, that you had to start by like entering DOS commands. You probably don't even know what that is.
Oh,
It was bad, but I was like, I didn't even know how to turn it on. So yeah, it was all a learning curve for me.
so would you say being curious and asking for that help, like you said, helped you climb the ladder?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Being curious, being willing to do the hard work, developing some grit and a strong backbone, and just never giving up. Just there was lots of times when I was so overwhelmed and I thought, what am I doing? This is just I feel so out of my element. And as I was growing, as I was building my knowledge in my career, there were so many times where I could have just quit and walked away. And I thought, if I quit and I walk away, I'm quitting on myself. And I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't willing to compromise that. And I knew that if I didn't keep going, well, then I would fail for sure. But if I would keep going, well, at least maybe I had a chance of succeeding.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when it came to your end of your career in that industry, can you go through that? Because I know the story, but I would love for you to discuss it with everyone else.
Yeah, so it was an extremely painful time for me. The last 2, 3 years of my career with the company that I was with, um, things were just really turning kind of sour. There was a lot of things going on in that corporate environment that I just had a lot of personal issues with. I was also really being treated differently because I was generally the only woman in the room. And rising up to a certain level of rank, um, I was treated differently and excluded a lot, and things just started to unravel. Like they let my boss go of 25 years. because he wasn't sort of playing the politics anymore. That devastated me when they did that to him. Like a man who dedicated 25 years of his life to that company. And that was sort of the beginning of the end. I was really feeling like this wasn't the place for me anymore. Like it almost felt like, if I could describe it, like the air felt thin. You know, when you're like trying to breathe, but you just can't get your breath. Like the air just felt really thin.
Yeah.
And there was lots of stress and lots of fear that crept in and lots of insecurities. And so I was offered my boss's role, the fellow that they let go after 25 years. And after 10 years of me being with that company and opening up 2 buildings and running 2 of the top buildings in the country for that company, having amazing engagement scores, fantastic KPIs. Like I did an amazing job. And I don't say that from an ego perspective. I say that because I loved what I did and I was really passionate about it and poured my heart into the team and customer service and innovation, and I loved it. And so after pouring all of that blood and bullets into the company, and then they gave me this, chance to go into this role after they let my boss go, even though I was kind of feeling like, ugh, I don't know about all this anymore. This is not feeling good. I went against my intuition. I went against my instinct that I shouldn't have. I thought, oh, I deserve the recognition. I deserve the title. I sort of went into this weird headspace that was going against what was in my heart. And so I was like forcing myself like a square peg into a round hole. And even in the to interview for the job, the fellow that interviewed me said, you're the controversial choice. And when he said that to me, I said, really? Why is that? Because I'm the only female, because I get excluded from meetings, because I'm the only one that sort of speaks up about some of the bad politics going on and some of the things happening that around here that aren't cool. Like, is that why I'm controversial? And so I knew in that moment the writing was on the wall. And so many months or whatever went by, and sure enough, the company found a reason to fire me. And I was brutally fired. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. The way they did it to me, all the circumstances, it was devastating, absolutely devastating. Like it was so devastating, Selena. I thought that I'm not the kind of person to think about ending my own life, and I'm not, that's a serious, serious issue. But I have to say, I've never been closer to that point where I thought, you know what? I can see how people feel so in a dark hole and so, being in so much pain that, by some kind of loss and, just by how everything was done to me, it was like my whole family turning their back on me. It was like getting stabbed in the back by, 15 times. It was so incredibly painful. At the time, right? And so, I really had to lick my wounds. Like I think I stayed in bed for days. I had to really try to pick myself up, and thank goodness for my husband and my kids and my family and my support system who loved me through it and helped pick me up and just really they were there for me. So I'm super blessed and grateful. But one thing I knew through all of that is I was never going back, ever. I couldn't, like the thought of going back into the corporate world, and I had other, interviews, or other people had come towards me for director roles or VP roles or whatever. And I I would get like a visceral reaction in my body, almost like I wanted to vomit. And so I thought,
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't go back. And yet I had a lot of fear around giving up my 30 years that I put in, my title, the salary, the prestige, all those things that we are told or taught to think that we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that I wasn't those things. I wasn't my title. I wasn't my salary.
Mm-hmm.
And I really started to dig deep and think, okay, well, what do I love? What did I love about my work? What did I love about, mentoring
Mm-hmm.
team members? And I found that my passion has always been helping people become more organized and productive. And my brain works in those kind of organized ways. It's like seeing a puzzle undone and being able to put all the puzzle pieces together. And I really sensed like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what I love to do. And it's not like in that moment it was so clear cut and that's it, off I went on my way. It was like I still felt torn, like there was still fear that came up, like, should I do this? Am I going to become an entrepreneur and give everything up? And, you know, but I realized over time is that I actually wasn't fired. I was promoted. And I remember the day when I got my new business cards for my company. And the guy from the printers must have thought I was crazy because I was sitting in the parking lot and I had got all my print material and I opened up the cards and I just started to bawl because I thought, nobody can ever take this away from me.
Yeah.
Here I thought for so many years that having a job, being in the corporate world, whatever, was security. But in an instant, in a heartbeat, somebody can decide that you are no longer useful and don't let the door hit you on the way out. Give me your access card and your business cards and you're done. And your whole life is shattered. Whereas me, this is something that I'm going to pour my heart into and that nobody gets to decide what happens in this business or the direction that I go or the color on the business cards, or it's my decision. It's my creation.
Yeah.
And so I sat in my vehicle and I bawled and I thought, this is my passion and
Mm-hmm.
my thing. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I started being an unexpected entrepreneur.
So awesome. I'm gonna pause you there because wow, that story, all the feels. Oh my goodness. Like, thank you so much for sharing that with everyone. I feel like it's gonna be so valuable. But I want to go back into certain parts of your story there, and then we'll continue on with what's happened now. But I really want to dig into some of those topics that you touched on a little bit. So, my first question for you was about being the only female in the room. Not only being the only female, but being a very powerful woman in the room. Can you explain a little bit more about what that is like and how you went around dealing with those types of criticisms and being left out because you were a woman? Can you go through some of that with me?
Yeah, so, you know, I love Michelle Obama. I saw her speak when she was here in Calgary, and I really related to her. She told a very similar story about being a very powerful lawyer in this Chicago law firm, and she said that it was like 1,000 little paper cuts in a day, and I so related with that because that's how it feels. Like nobody out and out says anything or blatantly does things, but there's little things that happen, hundreds of little things in a day. Some of them are very blatant that have happened to me in my career, but most of them are these little tiny paper cuts. But it's wearing because I felt like, okay, I have to try all these different strategies. Like, okay, well, they're not including me in things, and I'm not one of the guys. I wear like nail polish and big jewelry, and and they're like very conservative, you know, men.
Yeah.
So okay, so I need to be more like them. So I would try strategies to like be more like them, and to, even though I'm not really a big sports fan, I would like read up on sports, so I would have something to talk to them about. And then it was like, okay, well that doesn't work. And then I would just try to you know, include them and be really innovative and share whatever I knew, and well, that didn't work either. And so I tried all these different things, but the one thing that I should have just stuck to was just being me, just being true to who I am, my personality, myself. I am a woman. I paint my nails. I wear high heels. I do my hair sometimes in weird colors. Just get over it. I am who I am. And like accepting myself. How could I expect them to accept me when I didn't accept myself?
Mhm.
And the fact is that I think that there's still a lot of people with a lot of unconscious biases, especially in the corporate world, especially at those senior ranks when they all look the same and they're all, and I'm just generalizing, but they all are basically white middle-aged men and they all look the same. And there's a lot of unconscious bias at that table.
Mhm.
And so they don't even realize that some of the things that they're saying and they're doing, how painful and how hurtful that can be for a woman.
Mhm.
And it's just like men don't realize that women, what we need to do to feel safe if we're walking down the street by ourselves at night, or getting onto the C train or a bus, or men just don't even have to think about that. They don't even realize what women go through. And I think that's very much the same, is the men just didn't realize how it was impacting me. And so I think the solution is for those folks to really look at what their unconscious biases are, and um, try to dispel them, try to shed some light on them. And because women, we deserve to sit at the table. We offer a different perspective. We offer such multifaceted diversity. We offer compassion. We offer vision. We offer creativity. Like, we offer so much. And what we tend to do, or what you tend to find, especially at higher levels in big corporations, is you tend to see that people all look the same. They surround themselves with other people that look exactly the same. People that don't rock the boat, people that don't give, sort of diverse opinions, that don't play devil's advocate sometimes. And I think that is a death to a company. Companies need people from diverging um, backgrounds and ideas, and with different thoughts and imagination, to make them a better company. So yeah, I
Yeah.
hope that answers your question.
No, it did. It did very well. And I think that like everything that you said is so true. And it's hard because they don't, like, men sometimes don't understand what we have to do. Like you said, when I mean, for me personally, when I walk down a street, it's like all these things going in my head. How can I protect myself? Going on a train, how do I protect myself? All these different things that men don't do. And I think something that is missing is a lot of people cannot put themselves in others' shoes. And I find that's one of the things I can do that is proven to be very good and bad at the same time. But it's really important to see where someone else is coming from, and to see what they have been through, what they've gone through, why they act a certain way maybe. And I think that's another thing that's also missing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's missing not only from, our experiences from being female, but it's missing from, new Canadians that come to our country or, with all the issues around racism. And it's like we need to be more curious about each other. We need to really uncover our own unconscious biases. And are they real? Are they right? And most of the times they're not. Most of the times we make assumptions about people based on the fact we don't even know those people. And, they really, that senior leadership group did not take the time to truly get to know me as a leader, me as a woman. And what they did see, they were either intimidated by, it was just looked too different, my leadership style from their style. Theirs was very old school, very, tough manager. You boss people around and tell them what to do. Mine was far more collaborative and get everybody involved and values driven. Um, and there's something to be said for both. Like, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I have nothing against men. I love men. I'm married to a wonderful man. I had a wonderful father. I've got a wonderful brother-in-law. Like, I love men. It just, we all have unconscious biases. And in the workplace, unconscious biases towards women in leadership positions, is it still exists. And men absolutely need to look at that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think something that you've mentioned twice now is that you were very inclusive. And I think for me, a lot of people always ask, like, why are you so nice? How do you include everyone? And I always say it's because I've been the person who was not invited. I've been the person who sits alone. I've been the person that's been laughed at and made fun of. And I never want anyone to feel the way that I felt. And so I'm wondering if that is something similar for you, where your leadership strategy was super inclusive because you experienced with your company that you weren't included in certain meetings. You weren't included in the I don't know, the everyday hustle and bustle of
Boys Club.
the boys club. Thank you. And so I'm wondering if that is true for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the origin of that. I was also, you know, not really bullied, but I was, well, kind of, I was picked on in school because some of the girls were jealous or they thought things that weren't true. And I had issues with groups of girls and groups of guys. And I thought, you know what, this just isn't right. They don't know me. They don't know that I haven't, I am not this way. And so I learned really early on that, if we can seek first to understand and be curious about each other, and that it's not all about me. My leadership style has always been more about the teams first. I'm sort of just the leader, behind the scenes, pushing the team forward. And so I've always believed in that kind of servant leadership. And
Mhm.
that's just not the typical way in a big corporation, especially in the industry that I was in. It is a very masculine way of looking at leadership, and it's you listen to me and you do as I tell you. And, it's completely the opposite. And so part of it is just a natural, I think, who I am. And then a part of it, absolutely, it's like you said, I felt that way. I felt not included. I felt, I always felt like I had to like find my voice and try to speak out. And so I always wanted to give people that opportunity, whether they wanted to take it or not.
Mhm.
So it certainly did form my leadership style, my experiences. Yeah.
That's awesome. And talking about your leadership skills, I'd love to go more into that because it sounds like you've managed quite some team. I think you said 50 people. You managed 50 people at the end, near the end there. And so I'd love to hear how you, what your strategy was to keep everybody, maybe not everybody happy, but just keep that energy up and feel very innovative, inclusive, creative, and all that.
Well, I think one of the things that the key strategies that I always employed was complete open communication and transparency. Even when things were going really good, it's like, this is why it's going really good, and this is the part that you played in that. And when things went off the rails, a lot of times, in the corporate world, the knee-jerk response is to clam up. We're not going to talk about bad results. We're not going to talk about hard things that are happening or whatever. We're just, and then people are left making stuff up in their own head,
Yeah.
instead of, when you're just open and transparent and communicate as much as you can when you can about a bad situation, or something that's happened. I think people really respect that. The other thing is I wasn't afraid to get my hands dirty. Like, if we were experiencing, like, I managed the building during the flood of 2013. For those of you in Calgary, know the what happened there, and the building that I was managing we pumped out 4.5 million gallons of water from the parkade. Like, it was an emergency. Like, downtown was closed. We had only critical staff in the building. We were trying to manage a $900 million asset, keep it intact, having no power, no nothing, no tenants in the building. Like, it was a real challenge. And I was there, I slept there, like, I didn't shower for days on end. I made sure this team were taken care of, brought in food. Like, I was there. I wasn't one of these, just sort of at my house managing it from the telephone. It was like, I'm going to be here with you in the tough times. And so I think that's really important too. As a leader, you have to be willing to get your hands dirty, and because I rose up in the ranks, like, I knew everybody's job. I knew what it took. You couldn't fool me. Like, I did the job. I'd earned my stripes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those two elements, communication, transparency, and moving the team forward as much as possible, being more that backseat leader, that servant leader, and being willing to work hard, right alongside your team. Those were the key leadership tactics and strategies.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially getting your hands dirty. Just because you're maybe at the higher end doesn't mean that you don't have to do some of those things. So I love that you brought that up. How did you continue to be your own person? Like, I know you mentioned that you had your own beliefs and you had things that you knew were right and wrong in your own heart. And I know a lot of time peer pressure, you want to be liked, you want to fit in, all those things. Sometimes those can affect your beliefs and change them, and you won't speak up like you may normally do. So what was your experience with all of that, and how did you keep yourself, I guess, keep your beliefs first, lead with your beliefs?
Yeah, so I would do it in small ways and sometimes not so small ways, but every opportunity. Like, I'm a Christian. And so, as a Christian, I read the Bible. I believe in Jesus. I go to church. And so I would never not say, if somebody, oh, what'd you do on the weekend? And there was like something amazing that happened at church, or we were doing this great study with the women's group in my church. I would say, that's what I did. Just kind of matter of factly, because nobody can take away sort of your testimony, your sort of, yeah, this is how my beliefs are impacting my life, and that's my story. And that's so, most people, I think, were fine. I even led a group or a chapter of a group called the PWN, which is Professional Women's Network, which is actually a Bible study that happens with professional women, in downtown Calgary. There's like, I don't know now after sort of everything's been shut down, how many groups are still viable. But at the time, there was like 12 or 13 different little groups. I led one group, sort of the professional Christian women that knew about it in the surrounding buildings. And so every Monday at lunch, I had my Bible and I would go and walk to where we were meeting, and I didn't hide my beliefs. I didn't hide my faith. And I do think that that also did inevitably, though, play a part in my demise, because I think there is a lot of misconception around people who are Christians, and that we are very judgmental, or there's just people that don't seek to understand and will judge you for being spiritual and being, part of a religious organization. So but I never denied it. But I also didn't, take my Bible and beat people over the head with it either. So if they would,
People.
yeah, like if they would ask me, well, you're asking me about my life, and so yeah, I was involved with this women's retreat, or I going to my women's Bible study, or like I'm doing this thing at church. Of course, I'm going to tell you, but I'm not going to be like, hey, everybody needs to come to church with me, or So I think there's a way that we can honor, and whether you are Buddhist, whether you are Hindu, whether you are Muslim, like whatever faith you have or you don't have, you should be able to bring all of yourself to your work and not be judged or criticized for it. There was a gal on my team who was a Jehovah Witness. And so I took that as an opportunity to learn about Jehovah Witness. I mean, I'm not going to switch faiths anytime soon, but I wanted to understand where she was coming from and why some of the things, that she either didn't participate in, or some of her beliefs or whatever, why that was. So yeah, I think it's really important to honor people for what they believe in, whether it agrees with me or not. But the same respect and the same courtesy is not always given in return.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is that you're just such a strong woman and you believe fully in all these things. But for someone who may be a little bit more receptive to the peer pressure and, for example, not wanting to speak up when something is wrong, maybe it's not in their career or in their industry. Maybe it's in someone who's in high school who knows that there's something wrong, but they're scared to speak up. What advice would you give to someone like that?
I would say to pick your battles. You don't want to be the kind of person that is always sort of picking away at or criticizing, or, bringing out kind of the negative or the faults. I would say if something really, really doesn't sit well with you, and is a real struggle, there's a way to handle it. Instead of gossiping or talking to everyone around that person, just go talk to that person. Go talk to them. Don't gossip around them. Speak from your heart. Speak from a way that, like, this is how it makes me feel when these things happen. And, speak personally, as opposed to you should, you shouldn't. People just automatically get defensive, when you start criticizing, or they feel like, you're rejecting them, and it puts people on the defensive. So yeah, I would say, live your life being a role model. Don't fall into those traps of gossiping or being negative, or bullying people because you want to fit in. If somebody's being bullied or you see something wrong, you could say, hey, so and so, That's not cool. What if you were her? How would you feel if you were her? Or did you know that, maybe she's struggling, or let's figure out why she's acting this way, or what, let's try to figure it out first. Like, you can be that person that stands up for those kinds of things.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that would be the advice that I would give. I know I was that person in like school. I hated bullies. I would see people getting bullied and I would stick up for them all the time. Like, we don't need to treat people this way. And I really felt that as an injustice, when I was growing up. And yeah.
Yeah, I think I was that type of person as well. I always tried to make sure everyone felt included, and I would go sit with someone if they were alone at lunch, just trying to brighten up people's day in general. And you're right, bullying is not a good thing at all. And it's not okay. And so sometimes you got to stand up for those underdogs. And that's just what happens. But my next question for you is about when you were actually fired, all of the feelings you felt, like 15 stabs in the back, you had said, and not knowing if you could keep going. I would love for you to go into that a little bit more and explain some of your feelings and then how you overcame that. I know you said you had an awesome support system, but I know that there's probably more pieces to just that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, immediately right after I had to lick my wounds, there wasn't much I could do. Literally, I felt like I was sick in bed. Um, I was absolutely devastated. So that I needed to wait for that time to pass. I did a lot of writing. I went away on a retreat. There's an amazing retreat center just outside of Calgary. I went on a retreat and I did lots of like writing all kinds of profanity and mean nasty things that I would like then ball up the piece of paper and throw it in the fireplace in front of me. And I just did as much as I could to work through all the emotions. And because I felt a lot of rage, a lot of anger, I felt a lot of injustice, I felt a lot of shame, I felt a lot of, there was also a lot of, okay, what was my part in this? Because I played a part in what happened to me, absolutely. And so taking responsibility for my part in, the years leading up to that. So I just did a lot of different things to try to work it through. A lot of journaling, a lot of, talking to girlfriends, a lot of praying, a lot of meditating, a lot of, just a lot of that kind of stuff to really work it through. Like, I took that whole summer after, like I was fired in November 2018, and I sort of was in a really bad shape. I went to the doctor, I got on some antidepressant medication because literally I did feel like I could kill myself. So that's no joke. So if you feel that way, like, get help, speak out, get help. And I did that. And I went to my doctor, and that also really helped. That really helped me turn the corner and just stop thinking about those, those kind of dark thoughts, and start healing. Um, but I gave myself the time, just knowing that losing a job and losing what I thought was my dream, my career, my identity, my family, just being so brutally fired, I needed to take the time to heal from that. So I gave myself that time. I didn't ignore it. I didn't jump right into something else and then ignore all the feelings and just stuff them down, because they wouldn't go away. I wouldn't learn from it. I wouldn't become a better person, just from stuffing all of that down. So I really lamented and I really worked through it. And then once I felt like I could say I was fired and what I was taught, what happened to me without bawling and without like burning with shame, um, then I started saying, okay, well, now's the time where I need to start down a different path. And what is that going to look like? And I'm going to do it differently this time. I'm going to climb my second mountain differently than I climbed my first mountain.
Mhm.
And then I was really thoughtful about the mountain I was going to climb, what I was going to pack in my backpack to go up that mountain, the people I was going to surround myself with on the trail. Um, yeah, I learned a lot about how to climb my second mountain.
Yeah, that is so inspiring. And I've connected with every single word that just came out of your mouth so deeply, because I know what it's like to lose something that was so important to you. And then I was the person who pushed it down because I was like, I'm okay, and I wanted to skip the time that I needed. I really tried to jump over and be like, okay, what did I learn? And I tried to move too fast through the grieving process, because whether it's a death or a lost job, a lost, in my case, it was not getting valedictorian. And for these things are huge. And if we don't give ourselves the time and the process to go through these challenging times, it's difficult, because what I had done is I shoved it down, kept coming back up. I'm like, no, stop. And it was like, maybe I'm doing this all wrong. And when I felt like it was getting way too overwhelming, it was consuming me too much, I got help as well. I went to counseling and I spoke about my feelings, and it was the same thing. As soon as I could talk about it and not cry about it, I knew that it had changed, and I needed to take steps, like you had just said, into what I wanted everything to look like afterwards, because I had put so much, like you said, you had your identity. Everything was riding on your position, everything was riding on my valedictorian, and it was so heavy and it was so hard. But it was like, next time I'm going to be very intentional, or not next time, but the next chapter of my life, I'm going to be so intentional with who I surround myself with, what I choose to do, and what's next. So I really thank you for sharing that. It just really it touches me, and it inspires me so much. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. I used to be afraid of sharing my story, this part of my story, just thinking that I would be judged or, um, just all kinds of negative things that people would think about being so vulnerable and so honest. And the amazing thing, Selena, is that when you are this open and honest, people aren't repelled by it. It actually brings people in. People are attracted to that deep, honest vulnerability because it allows them to be the same.
Yeah,
And we all have things in our life that are so hard and that we struggle with, and that we think that we're the only ones that are going through this. And when somebody truly from the heart says, I was here and I hit my rock bottom and I was flat on my face. I didn't know if I'd ever get up again. But I did, and this is how I did it. Like, we need to share those messages because they are messages of hope.
yeah,
People need hope to know that when they're down flat on their face in the darkest place they've ever been, that they will see the light again.
yeah,
They will get up.
yeah,
And so we do the world a disservice if we don't share our hardest stories.
yeah. And I think sometimes our hardest stories are ones that we feel, at least I felt this way, that weren't important, or that wouldn't help anyone, or that my issue was not as is not as important as someone else. Maybe my thing wasn't as traumatic, but I think like you said, at the end of the day, it is a disservice, because no matter if it was something very traumatic, to you, it still matters. Everything is on a different scale for everyone. But I think something that was big for me to overcome was that it's a valuable story to tell, and that someone will learn from it and someone will connect with it. And I think exactly what you said. And that's why I have started this podcast, really, because I truly believe that with my whole heart. The more we're vulnerable and the more we share our story with others, the better place, the world's going to be a better place altogether, because we can unite in that way.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I thank you so much for speaking today and everything you've done. But I do want to get in a little bit more, just a little bit more about what you do today and some exciting things that are coming up for you. So, you said that when you've gone through all this, you've taken the time to heal. You started your own business and you were a professional organizer, if I'm correct. So, I
Yes.
would love you to go into that and tell us about some of the things that are coming up in your business as well.
Sounds good. So, yeah, so I own Organize My Space Calgary, and I am a trained professional organizer as well as a productivity coach. So, my company does provide home organizing services as well as business organizing services and productivity coaching. And so I'm growing my business and I am loving it. Like, I love, 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 love going into people's homes, helping them live in more organized and functional ways, breaking free of, holding on to clutter and things that don't serve their life, and just making their lives much smoother and easier. In business, I've my clients, I teach them all about how to clean out their email inboxes and set them up and set up really awesome calendars and killer task lists, and really laying a good solid foundation so that they can focus on what is most meaningful, and they can gain tons of clarity and do more in less time, so that not because we're just robots and we, produce, so that they can really see success in their business, feel good about walking away at the end of the day, that they've actually accomplished a ton of stuff, not just felt busy but unproductive, and not feeling like they're always behind and stressed and overwhelmed, and actually leave for the day and be present in the rest of their life. Be there for their kids, go to the basketball game, go to swimming lessons, go for a bike ride with their kids, walk their dog, like do whatever they want to do. That is the whole point. And so I love, love helping people, coaching people, providing the kind of resources and the knowledge that I have, because that is what those 30 years gave me, was these real world, truly battle tested strategies on how to be very productive, organized, and efficient. And so that's what I love to teach and mentor and coach. Um, and so, as a result of starting my business and offering these services, I have decided, and I'm in the midst of writing a book. And so it has been exciting. It's been challenging. I'm like, I feel overwhelmed regularly. um, but I've always been a writer. I've always loved writing, journaling, writing. Has just always naturally kind of poured out of me. And so, yeah, it feels good when I'm in the flow and I'm writing and it's coming out. And so my book is about, and I don't have an exact title yet. It's still a work in progress, but it's for productivity for entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs. And so I just finished writing a chapter on dreaming and setting your vision, and how to decide, design, and then actually accomplish your dreams. And I'm going to be sharing it on my blog and through different social media posts and so on. And I will be sharing my journey of writing this book as I go along, all the highs and the lows, and getting stuck in the muck and thinking, oh my goodness, why am I doing this? But I feel this deep sense of obligation to do this. Like, there's so many female entrepreneurs that I've met that are just completely overwhelmed. They're doing way too many things. They're overcomplicating their work. They're drowning in emails. They're lost in piles of paper. And I have the key. I know how to unlock that and set them free from that. So if I don't write this book, I am doing all of those fempreneurs a disservice. So I'm doing it for them.
I'm so excited for your book. I am going to be the first one who buys it. I am so excited. If someone wants to see what you're doing, keep up with it, and get the book when it's done, where is their primary way to find you?
So my the primary way is Instagram, which is Organize My Space Calgary, and then my website, which is the same, organizemyspacecalgary.com. So those two are the primary ways that you can sort of see what is going on.
Awesome. That's so incredible. Thank you so much for sharing everything you have today. I would have loved to get more into the business stuff, but I think that your story about your career ending and everything was just so powerful. So maybe I'll have to get you back on here again to talk about your business and some more of those, challenges. And because I can guarantee it that after you had experienced that huge challenge, it wasn't just easy peasy right after that. There was lots of ups and downs in your business. Yeah,
Yeah,
shaking
it
your head.
still is every day.
Yeah,
Just do it scared.
yeah. So I'd love to have you back for sure on here. But yeah, I really want to take this opportunity to thank you for what you have done in my life. I've known you for a short time, but in that short time, you have really given me the, I guess, like belief and energy in myself that I can do things like this podcast, and I can do hard things, and I am valuable and I am special. So I just wanted to thank you so much for that. Like, it has truly impacted my life. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And that just really warms my heart. And I'm a mom of, kids around your age, and I'm telling you that I just I feel like if you were my daughter, like I just have so much pride for what you're doing and what you have overcome and what you are accomplishing. And I've said this to you before, I can't wait to see you in like 3 years, 5 years from now, just with your heart and your passion, and you just seem to not let anything stop you. I just can't wait to see what your future holds. So you just keep killing it, Selena. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so to end this interview off, I have 4 questions that I ask everyone. And so the first question is, what is some of the best advice you've received and from whom?
Oh, some of the best advice I've ever received. Um, I would say probably that everything is outable, and that's Marie Forleo. I really resonate with that. I really believe that everything is figure outable. There's nothing that, technology wise, social media wise, starting your own business, whatever, you can figure it out.
Yeah, because nowadays technology is at the tip of our fingers, so we have no excuse. We can Google everything.
That's right. It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what you're doing, everything is figure outable. So that's courtesy of Marie Forleo.
I love that. Okay, next question. What is the worst advice you've received?
The worst advice I ever received would probably be, um, the worst advice. Let me see. I would have to say the worst advice would probably be to like just ignore injustices. Like just don't stand for anything. Like just toe the line. Just drink the Kool-Aid. Be quiet. You know, and that wasn't just one person saying that, but that was multiple sort of messages
Yeah.
that I received over my career, and I think that's really bad advice. I think, do we need to pick our battles? Yes, but I think it's also really important to stand for something and stick your neck out when it's important. Just
Yeah.
stand for something.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Okay, next question. What advice would you give your younger self or someone in the younger generation?
I would tell my younger self to wear a bikini wherever I went because that was the best it was ever going to get.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you know what? You really do look good naked at 19. Like, stop being so insecure. Oh my goodness. Um, And, and even though I'm joking about wearing a bikini, that is what I would tell myself is stop being so insecure. Like, you are unique, you are valuable, you have the right to shine your light, and shine, be proud of who you are. Your body, your mind, your creativity, your passions, just, you know, stand where you're planted, and yeah.
That's
And
great.
and you can wear a bikini.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so my fourth question for you is, what are you most grateful for in life?
I am most grateful for the people in my life, hands down. Yeah, if I had all the money and all the success and all the everything, and I didn't have love and I didn't have those relationships, I would have nothing, absolutely nothing. And I'm also really grateful for my new puppy, which I'm grateful for you for. She
Yeah.
so loving. She is so unconditionally sweet and beautiful. Yeah. So it's love and relationships and people.
Awesome. That is so incredible. Thank you so much again for taking the time tonight. We went a little bit over. So thank you for wearing your heart on your sleeve and sharing the real challenges and struggles through your life, but also how you've overcome them and made even more of an impact today. So thank you so much.
Yes, you're very welcome.
All right.
I related to everything you said in so many different ways, as I have been in a similar situation, but it was just a little bit different in what actually happened. But you have truly inspired me, and I hope that she inspired you through this episode. I can't wait for you guys to learn more about her. If you want to connect with her, you can go to the notes below and find her Instagram account. She is so amazing. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I think I'm getting pretty good at remembering to say that now. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys very soon. Bye.